Welcome back. All right, so we got games starting in roughly half an hour's time. I figured I could do a panic index over a half an hour. I should be able to do that. I don't ramble that much. So let's find out how I ramble that much. So I Christmas themed it sort of. I'm wearing camouflage because that's highly Christmas. This is my Sioux Hunt jersey, courtesy of the boys who run the show Shorzy. So kudos for that. I've got Merry Christmas up here, so the happy face Merry Christmas. Humbug for those who may not be in the spirit of Christmas. And down here, things are getting nuclear. This is where fan bases are kind of tired of it, just want to blow it all up. Over here, not very festive, right? It's not very festive. He said this was festive. Things blow up at Christmas. Go check the Entertainment Guy. I have a whole video on it. So, and nothing blows up in the video. I just talk about it. It's kind of sad. So over here, normally I have the Stanley Cup magnet. Instead, I have a phone magnet. And I've written up here whatever call when the playoffs start. So yeah, it's happy, Merry Christmas, great. But these are for teams that are doing well, but we'll see what happens when the playoffs get rolling. And over here, you got Happy New Year. You've got a nice little disco ball here to symbolize the new year, because these are fan bases waiting for the draft lottery, the draft, and what their team might be next season. Not as concerned with this season, because this season's kind of done. So I put them in a random order, and we'll start off with the Chicago Blackhawks. The Chicago Blackhawks, of course, waiting for next season. Happy New Year, meaning next year things should be better. This is a team that's just not very good. They work hard. They do get their share of wins here and there, but yeah, they are exactly where we thought they would be before the season started. They are who we thought they were, especially at Chicago, right? But anyways, yeah, Happy New Year for Chicago. Colorado, I'm going to put Colorado on the line. I'm going to put Colorado on the line because I do think there are those who will look at the record and say, they'll be fine. And there will be others that will look at how this team's been performing lately and say, there's a concern. I have some concerns. So I put them on the line because I'm a coward. That's the important part to understand too. When I do panic indexes, cowardice, right here, the face of cowardice. Not putting that on a t-shirt. Carolina, Carolina, I'm going to put them a little bit below the line because the goaltending continues to be an issue. Their record's good, but I think the goaltending issue and just some overall issues with the Canes, I don't know how happy fans are, and their road record's really kind of sad. I touched on that in the video earlier today, so yeah, I'm going to put Carolina a little bit below the line, not full-on panic, not into humbug territory, that's crazy, but a little bit below the line. Tampa Bay, normally I would have them over here, waiting for the playoffs. I'm going to put Tampa Bay on the line as well. Yep, that's right. Another recent Stanley Cup winner at the line. I think they're winning enough games that I don't think there'll be a full panic, but there are enough issues with this team over recent days that I don't know that people are necessarily going to be like jubilantly happy either. Just keep in mind they've got 2 Stanley Cups in the last few years, and so when teams win Stanley Cups, you will have an issue with maintaining that level of success. And eventually teams have to retool, change things up. Tampa Bay, I don't think is far out from that. But yeah, I'm putting them on the line. Cowardice right here. St. Louis, I'm going to put them below the line as well. I think the firing of Craig Berube, I really think that there's a large portion of the fan base that feels that, not that the wrong person got fired. I won't say that, but there are some fans who feel that way. And there's also the belief this team just is not really built or suited for playoffs right now. They're not considered to be a great team. I did think they could jump back into the playoffs this year, but that's just because looking at them historically, they can do that. I don't think their team's that bad, but there were plenty of others who felt that St. Louis, now and in the future, things didn't necessarily look fantastic. Seattle, for Seattle, I'm going to put them on this side, not completely down into the yay draft pick, because they're still getting enough points in overtime and shootouts that they're not quite in the hunt, but they're not completely out of it either. But I'm not putting them on this side either because I don't know that there's panic necessarily with Seattle. I've noticed in the comments here and just online, a lot of Seattle fans understanding that what we saw with the Vegas Golden Knights was the exception rather than the standard. And so what Seattle's going through right now is kind of standard growing pains with a new team. They had a really good second season. Now in the third season, they've regressed. And I don't think there's a lot of pressure to win right now. I think there's more of a focus on building it up the right way. So I'm giving Seattle fans the benefit by putting them here. San Jose belongs right down here next to the Happy New Year. I'll put them right next to the disco ball. How does that suit you? So yeah, for San Jose, we've known since before the season started, this team's in a rebuild, and I've seen nothing to tell me that that's changed. Winnipeg. Winnipeg fans have to be very happy right now, based on the number that felt they should have been number one in the power rankings, right? And I did explain in that video, but at any rate, Winnipeg, I put them at the top of this board. There you go. Perfect happiness. I'm not putting them in the wake me up in the playoff start side because Winnipeg wasn't expected to be this good, so people are enjoying the ride. Washington, I'm going to put Washington above the line, not like jubilantly above the line. Now, they're flirting with the playoff line, sometimes below, sometimes above, but the fact that they're in the hunt right now, it's not too shabby, right? Tonight they're at home against Detroit. If they win that game, I mean, honestly, Washington's put themselves in a pretty good spot while they're not getting goals from Ovi, while they're not getting points from a lot of people, while they're not producing very many goals. They're still getting points in the standings. They're still getting wins. If this team figures it out offensively, they could be a real sleeper. All right, Vegas. Vegas is absolutely right next to that phone. Call us when the playoffs arrive. Vegas, they've had their ups and downs recently, but I mean, over an 82-game schedule, it's going to happen. I don't think there's any panic in Vegas, and I think fans are still riding the wave from that Stanley Cup win too. Vancouver, there's some happiness in Vancouver. I can't think of the last time that Winnipeg and Vancouver have been at the top of the panic index. In fact, I'm pretty sure that's never happened. Vancouver, it's been remarkable. It's been fantastic, and it's been a lot of fun to watch. Last night's game against Nashville, a good example. I was messaged on Facebook by a subscriber, one that we used to see in Las Vegas. And, she was telling me how good Vancouver looked in Nashville, even though they were rooting for the Preds, because they live there, and I apologize to Nashville fans, but doesn't Vancouver look pretty good? Yeah, they do. Vancouver fans pretty happy right now. Toronto. So Toronto I would normally have right here. But Toronto, there's some concern because of, ongoing issues with, Wall's injured, and so Jones becomes a start. Well, is Samsonov, is he able to put up back-to-back good starts? There always seems to be a concern with Toronto, so I'm not quite putting them here. I'm not putting them on the panic side either, because that's crazy. But I'm not quite putting them at that let's wait till the playoffs, because there's still enough issues with the team that there's a little bit of concern there. Ottawa, we're at radioactive level in Ottawa, and I don't blame Ottawa fans for being frustrated. We were told this was going to be a time of just completely unfettered success. We were going to see a level of success this team had never achieved before, is what they were hyping it as a few years ago. That once they started spending money, Ottawa was going to be, cup contention. Nope. And this is the thing. You can get all the prospects, all the young players together you want. You can put together a team, and then you put it on the ice. Sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. And when it doesn't, it often costs the GM the job, as it has in this case. Montreal. You know what? Montreal's got nothing to lose. Montreal fans should be over here, but they're putting up enough wins. I'm putting them right there because, Montreal's staying in the hunt. I don't know how, but Montreal's staying in the hunt. It's kind of fun to watch. They and Washington, to me, are two teams that I'm kind of waiting to see when it's going to fall apart, but I'm fine with it not. I've always said as a Boston fan, I much prefer Montreal to be a good team, because when Boston beats Montreal and it's a really good fight and Montreal's a good team, I enjoy it more. Even though I'm aware that if you look historically, that's not usually the way it works. Usually Boston's been the one getting knocked out by Montreal, but just saying. Nashville. Yeah, things are pretty happy in Nashville too. I'm going to put Nashville just underneath the happiness side of things. They're 18-14 currently. They've gone on a great run. They're 13-4 in their last 17. Yeah, things are pretty good in Nashville right now. Panic, worrying about, we'll draft. I mean, there's some concern about, they should be rebuilding. You want to get good draft picks, but on the other side, it's fun winning, right? New Jersey, there's a healthy amount of panic, I would think, with the New Jersey Devils. The New Jersey Devils are looking for a goaltender. The New Jersey Devils are without Dougie Hamilton. Will be without Dougie Hamilton for the rest of the season. So, yeah, there's definitely some concern, I would think, around the New Jersey Devils. I share that. I still think they're going to turn around and make the playoffs, but, right, there's sort of that, but are they, kind of feeling to it. Detroit, yeah, there's got to be some panic with Detroit too. In fact, I'm going to put them below St. Louis and New Jersey. Detroit got off to a great start to the season. Now tonight they're in Washington. If they lose that game, I expect there to be a lot of panic. They're without Husso, they're without Lyons, so now they've got Reimer, they've got Hutchinson, they recently signed. They're going through some injury issues and all of that. So, and then Dylan Larkin coming out and admitting that after the hit he took and coming back from the injury, he's not playing afraid, but it's made him more aware of things out there. It's kind of changed his mindset. So if a player is playing out there kind of aware, like where's the next hit coming from, that can be tough, right? That can affect their game. So there's good reason to be concerned right now if you're a Detroit fan that really good start, that great feeling with Detroit first 10 games of the year, it's petering out. Philadelphia Flyers fans right now have to be over the moon with how the Flyers are playing. This is the best the Flyers have looked in 4 seasons. Best they've looked since the 2019-2020 season. This team looks good, and they look good up front. They're good defensively, and their goaltending's been solid. I really think that Philadelphia is going to surprise people who haven't been watching the Flyers. And I understand if you haven't been watching the Flyers because we've been told the whole way through, the Flyers, they're not going to be any good. They're good. Calgary. There has to be a decent amount of panic around the Calgary Flames. You know what, though? I'll put them up here with Detroit. I won't put them in that like nuclear category. They need to string wins together. They're close enough to a playoff spot that I don't know how much panic there is, but there's likely some. I would say there's some, and I think it's well founded. There's reason to think that Calgary might be looking at selling off Hanifin, looking at selling off Lindholm. And if they don't start stringing wins together, that's probably the best move. If this team's within 5 points of a playoff spot, but they're below 500, they're not quite able to win enough games, then you sell those assets. You don't want to lose them for nothing in the offseason. Boston. Boston should be up there, but I'm not putting them there. I'm putting them right next to Montreal. Now, for Boston, there's some concern because their play in recent weeks hasn't been fantastic. So I'm not going to put them over here because I don't feel like Boston has played as well over the last, I'll say 11 or 12 games as they did to start the season. And I said early on, Boston games are kind of boring, or as I would phrase it, it looks like they're skating in porridge because the game's just slow. Not a lot of action, not a lot of chances. Well, Boston recently, their games, they're not quite as slow and boring as they were, and it's not the kind of style of hockey. Like they're having a hard time protecting leads. And so, for Boston, I don't see any reason to have them in the panic side because they're still winning their share of games. And points-wise, if you look at points percentage, they're fine. But it's not been a great run lately. Dallas. Dallas I kind of want to put in the same spot. I will say with Dallas, I'm going to put them on the line. They're without Ottinger week to week. They've had their struggles early on in games. They've had occasion the full 60 minutes has been eluding them in terms of playing that full 60 and getting that really strong quality game. So for me, Dallas, I'm going to put them on the line. I don't think that there's a reason necessarily panic, but I don't think there's a reason to be overly jubilant either. So you see, there's the Central Division leaders, Winnipeg being way above Colorado and Dallas on this board. I know in the standings they're not, but I think that's an expectation thing too. Columbus. I'm not going to put Columbus on this side this time because it does feel like there's some reason for panic with Columbus at this point, or is there? Okay, let me really think this through. So you got Marchenko, you've got the Marchenko, Chinikov, Voronkov line. You know what? I'm going to put them over here. Fine, I talked myself into it. Columbus goes over here waiting for the draft. The odds of Columbus digging their way out of the hole to get into the playoff chase in the East, almost zero. So I'm not going to put them in the panic side because I haven't seen a whole lot of people calling for the new coach to lose his job. I've seen some, which is odd because it's his first National Hockey League head coaching job. Sometimes it takes a while for players to learn your systems and for all that. But, I mean, there's enough scoring for Columbus right now that I think there's hope for them in the future. Just, this season's probably done. So Buffalo. Yeah, Buffalo fans not happy right now. And I agree. I 100% agree. The calls for Don Granato's job, I understand, but it's weird because coming into this season, there were plenty of Buffalo fans who felt that Don Granato was keeping this team competitive and that his coaching style was working really, really well for the team. So I wouldn't necessarily say a coaching change is the right move, but I understand why fans feel that way. Hopefully they can dig their way out, and maybe that 9-4 loss last night against Columbus helps them turn things. I said I wouldn't say that anymore. Arizona. I don't see any reason for Arizona to be upset. Look, Arizona, I expected them to maybe be a 500 team. I remember there was laughter about it. And honestly, I understand. I totally get it. This is a team that has been bad on the ice for a very long time. I do think they're figuring it out, and if they can get the arena situation fixed, Coyotes are a growing concern in the West. But they've got 3 wins, the 3 most recent wins against teams that aren't necessarily, fantastic teams on the standings, but you're winning the games you should. The fact that Arizona has games they're winning that you look at and go, well, yeah, they should win that, shows you that they've improved. Pittsburgh. I would think there's a healthy amount of panic in Pittsburgh. I would say that 7-0 game the other night, I would say that gives you a lot of reason if you're a Penguins fan to say, you know what? I think I'm panicked. I think I feel a certain sense of dread that I didn't feel earlier. So yeah, Pittsburgh, I'm going to put down on that part of the board. Again, there's no science to this. So if you guys want to jump in and say, I feel like, Pittsburgh, there's no concern, fine, you can do that. But for me, I think Pittsburgh has some reason to be concerned. Anaheim. Anaheim's going to be down here next to the disco ball, waiting for the new year and waiting for the draft lottery and all of that and whatever that entails. I don't think that there's a lot of excitement around the Ducks, although they've won their most recent 2 games. I think people are realistic about the Ducks, that they're still in the midst of a rebuild. Islanders, I've seen Islander fans on the channel. They're excited. They're happy. They're quite happy. They're not in this portion of the board yet, but if the Islanders get into a position where they're really comfortably in the playoffs and they've just found their spot, whether that's second or third in the division, then they'll end up over here sometime in the new year. New York Rangers, the Rangers I'm going to put up here as well. I think the New York Rangers have had a very strong run. I think that even though they were 3-3 in their last 6 before that game against Toronto last night, that's how an 82-game schedule works. So for Rangers fans, I don't see any reason they would be negative. Minnesota. So what are we going to think about Minnesota here? They beat Boston in Boston last night. So I'm not going to put them at the line yet because they need to string some wins together, but it's been getting better. And so I think that while there's still going to be some concern in Minnesota around the team, and their, of course, cap situation. I have to mention the cap situation. You have to mention it every time we talk about Minnesota. But Minnesota right now, I have them moving up, and I if they keep playing the way they have been, they'll be on the happy side of the line. There's still some room to make up for a playoff spot, but there we are. LA Kings, well, I don't see any reason the Kings would be concerned. I mean, they've got a better road record than they have at home, but they have the best road record any team's ever had through 15 games to start the season. 13-1-1, which I looked it up. That's ridiculous. Florida, there has to be some concern in Florida right now. This is a team that is trending in the wrong direction right now. A road trip that's been really tough for them, similar to the road trip that Carolina had. Although Florida did win the game against Edmonton, and then they come up short against Calgary. But yeah, I think there's got to be some concern in Florida. Why isn't Matthew Tkachuk scoring goals? Question mark I've had is Matthew Tkachuk. I'm trying to figure out a way to come up with a video that is kind of about Matthew Tkachuk not scoring without just making it simply Matthew Tkachuk's not scoring goals. What's up? But I may do a video soon on just players that aren't scoring goals that we expected, and then players who are scoring goals we didn't expect. So maybe tomorrow. Maybe I'll do that tomorrow. Or I could. That's something I could post over the 3-day holiday for Christmas too. So we ended off with the Oilers, and for the Oilers, a week ago it would have been up here, right? Everything's going well. 8-game winning streak. You know what? They've lost 3 in a row. I'm going to put them back below the line. I think the coaching bump is probably done for the Edmonton Oilers. I think this is a team that does have some issues when it comes to the mental part of the game. I think they have all the talent in the world, but there's something there, and I don't know if they're really and truly going to maintain the kind of numbers they've had. This road trip's been tough. It's not done. They've still got to play New Jersey and the Rangers. It will be very interesting to see how things go. And if the Oilers lose both of those games, and if they lose it in semi-convincing fashion like the one last night against the Islanders, they'll be dropping down this board even further. So there you go. Just 2 teams that I feel like there's kind of this nuclear level upsetedness from fans with, and I would say that's Ottawa and Buffalo. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you have not done so already. So there's your Christmas Panic Index. Not a lot of Christmas to it, but the power rankings on Saturday, there's going to be a lot of Christmas to that. So thank you guys so much for all your support. It means a lot. This is the last Panic Index of 2023. So there you go. Thank you guys again. I'll talk to you guys soon enough.